Here's what you get with this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
It's things like that provide an entree and get you out of the details. They say the devil's in the details, and I'll tell you why, because they will lead you to hell in a pitch. You want to go up high and connect at the highest possible level to be of the greatest level of service, if that makes sense.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. And The Nice Guys on Business. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Funkin' fans, welcome back. Welcome back. It is Wednesday. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, Mr. Doug Sandler and special guest, Anna.
What? Hey, how's it going?
Anna, the new titled Anna. Anna, let me ask you a question. So you were our production assistant, and then you sent me an email asking about a change of title, and I was concerned that you felt maybe that we weren't putting you in the light that you should be in. So did we do anything offensive by giving you a wrong title, or were you actually just have outgrown that title?
Not at all. I mean, from the get-go, when I initially was just taking podcast notes for you guys, I thought production assistant was too fancy. But when we had talked about adding more responsibility and you had mentioned show producer, I was like, oh, I like how that sounds.
I do too. I like that too.
I just wanted to just double check we were on the same page, because I'm definitely going to use that and, brag a little bit when I'm talking to people about what I do with you guys.
Legitimately, this is like a real thing now. You realize that, right? I mean, you are now a professional because you actually get paid to do it now. So you are a professional. I mean, you don't get paid a lot, but you get paid.
No, it's good. I mean, you guys flew me out to Vegas. It feels very legit.
Yeah. What do your parents say about this whole thing?
My grandma, it was so funny. When I told her I was going to Vegas, she was just worried, so worried. She was like, do you know these men?
These boys? These boys?
Call me. Yeah, these boys. Like, are you sure this is safe and all this stuff? I'm like, Grandma, it's fine. Let me show you the website. My photo was up and it had a little about me that you guys wrote. Yeah. And so that definitely put her at ease. But she was on the edge of her seat until I came back from Vegas.
Yeah. She looked at the website and she said, "Oh, they look like nice boys."
Exactly.
You didn't actually let her listen to any of the episodes, did you?
No, I haven't. But I did have to explain to her what a podcast was. So
I've had to do that with my mom many times. She still doesn't understand now. At what time do I listen to this? It's not at a specific time, Mom. It's
when do I tune in?
Exactly.
They're used to it.
What channel is it on?
So you're in the new position. You now are a show producer. Now, what's the next step? Because I'm curious. Not that we have to get there so quickly, but what is the next step beyond? I mean, are you ready to be president? Because you can take over for me if you want to.
Absolutely. I mean, if I need to start taking this thing global, we got to do it. You know what I mean?
Damn. I think the next step is audio engineer. I can teach you how to do the editing, and you can take that over.
Don't give that.
That'd be cool. I mean, I'm not much of a technical person. I would love to be maybe more of a PR for you guys. That would be really fun. Kind of make some deals, get us out there.
I'm feeling that at some point, Mar really needs to get a little bit more involved in the guest management side of things. And Anna, I see the two of you really making this empire grow even larger for us.
Absolutely. We need some more women power up in here.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think that when you first started with us that it was ever going to come down to this, Anna?
I had a gut feeling, you guys. I mean, you had momentum and energy, so there was definitely something that was going to come out of this, but this has far exceeded my expectations, for sure.
It's great. It really is. And Anna, we feel the same way about you. You have exceeded our expectations we really had no idea. I think we connected just as a guest blog. Isn't that what you originally had done for me on my website? And it just has evolved from that. And there's been so many people that have come and gone, not meaning like people that have said, "Oh, I want to do something like that. I want to," and nobody has even gotten up to bat, Anna.
Right.
Yeah. I think it was a big being at the right time in the right place, and then, having a little bit of talent to go with it. So
yeah, that and so much more. So thank you for all that you are doing. You're going to hang with us for a little while we do some of these intros for the shows?
Heck yeah, I'd love to.
Okay,
yeah, I don't want to interrupt this love fest, but we do have an actual interview today.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, Chris Westfall.
Oh, was he on the show today?
Chris Westfall won the competition of the greatest elevator speech ever.
Yeah, but did he tell you what one of the judges was Jeffrey Hazlett?
Yeah, National Elevator Pitch Champion. Yeah,
I'm not taking anything away from him. He and Jeffrey have a relationship. They actually have a course that's up on is it Udemy or Udemy?
Udemy. Isn't it? Anna,
yeah.
you'd probably know better, right? Udemy?
I would definitely say it's Udemy.
Udemy, yeah. How to
It's
pitch
not
anything?
Udemy.
How to pitch anything in 2 minutes?
No.
So anyway, he's gotten a number of his clients landed on Shark Tank, and I don't know Dragon's Den. You told me that was that's the British version of Shark Tank.
Exactly. Dragon's Den is basically the British version of Shark Tank. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a couple of his clients that have hired him, and that he's done so well with them that they've landed on positions on Shark Tank and Dragon's Den. So he's got to be a really good pitch guy, I would say.
He's got 2 books. One's called The New Elevator Pitch, and the other is called Bulletproof Branding. So the guy definitely knows his stuff.
All right. Well, why don't we just get to the since we've probably spent longer doing this intro than most that we have done.
No, actually, it's relatively short compared to other ones. We're only 6 minutes in.
All right, let's get to the interview. Right before we do that, though, just a couple of brief recommendations. If you are listening on Overcast, just take a moment and hit the recommend button. You know where that is. It's the little star button next to the play key. Do that for back as many episodes as you possibly can. Also, the support of the show is greatly appreciated through patreon.com/nice guys. We have reward levels that start at $1,500 and work all the way down to a mere $1. So either way that you look at it, we will reward you if you become a supporter of the show. It helps us do things like pay Anna. Hey Anna, it helps us. Pay
now
Anna.
that we're over $100, every dollar that you choose to donate to Patreon goes to Anna, and she
And every extra dollar is much appreciated.
That's good. Anna, are you still trying to row across the world, or is that on hold right now?
It's on hold. We're trying to find funding for a boat. So if it's not happening next year, it's probably going to be the following. One of the girls that is going to be rowing with us, she's on the case. She's the one looking for the sponsors and everything. So we're just sitting tight for now.
It's a rowboat, and it's going across the Atlantic.
Across the whole Atlantic Ocean.
Not just a small part of the Atlantic. The entire Atlantic. A rowboat. I mean, a different rowboat than you're possibly thinking, but it's how many people fit in the rowboat? 3?
4?
Yes, well, you can have up from 1 to 4.
And how far is it? How far is the actual trip?
That's a great question. It starts in the Canary Islands on the west coast of Africa, and then we would go to La Antigua in the Caribbean area.
Crazy.
So.
That is nuts. Anna, what would even motivate you to even think about trying to start? What I forget what the challenge is called.
It's called the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge.
Oh my gosh.
I'd be drinking a lot of whiskey on that trip, trust me.
On that note, let's head to the interview with Chris Westfall. We are the Nice Guys on Business, and let's do it. Our interview right here. If you have an idea and need a great pitch to sell your ideas, Chris Westfall might just be the man. The clients that have hired him have landed places like Shark Tank. Wow, that's pretty good. Dragon's Den, and not only gets their message heard totally, but they get the dollars too. The question we're going to answer today is, how do you pitch without being too salesy? Because that's always the hassle for me. I come across as high pressure sometimes, and it's only because I'm excited. I don't want to be that way, but sometimes it comes across as salesy. So I know he's going to help me a lot. Here to share some behind-the-scenes secrets of doing just that, how to not sound salesy, how to get money, maybe even how to get on Shark Tank. Welcome, Chris, to the Nice Guys.
Hey, Doug. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we appreciate you being here, and I know that you and I have a connection in Jeffrey Hazlett. So I'm going to do my best to live up to the cowboy boot reputation that Jeffrey has laid down before me.
Yes, well, we've got to think big and act bigger, according to Jeffrey
Oh,
Hazel. I'm going to try that.
Hold on, I got to get out my bell. You just every time we promote Jeffrey Hazlett, we have got to ring the bell today. All right, because there's a few spots in here that will ring the bell, I'm sure. So let me get right into it, because some of the stuff that I was looking at, so exciting, and looking at your website and looking at some of the online courses and your YouTube channel. Well done. Wow, so many views on that. I'm going to quote you directly. There's never a good time to make a bad presentation. So talk about that for a moment and how that has served you well in the past.
Well, one of the things that I've found in my career and for the clients that I've worked with, and I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, the success that you enjoy, whatever it might be, or whatever you'd like to create, it all starts with your story. And whether that story begins online or in person or both, you've got to make sure that your URL matches up with IRL, right? In real life.
Oh, no.
So, you see what I'm
wait
saying?
A minute. Say that again. That's really good.
So, yeah.
Maybe we'll have to title the episode that. Make sure your URL matches your IRL in real life. Oh, man. See, this is why you get all the clients, dude, because that is freaking awesome.
Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to get excited just by one line, but that's a good line.
Well, thank you. But it's really true. I mean, if you meet someone and they're like, "Gosh, I think I enjoyed your avatar more," you might want to look at that.
Yeah, well, my mom is on some of the dating sites. Not to get off track here, but if you've listened to any episodes of the show, and you've already proven you have, because I was in the pre-interview, you were like mentioning names of other people that have actually been on the show and chatted with me. My mom, she looks at all of the. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, and so my mom is back in the dating world again. She loves the idea. She doesn't want to just be hanging out there, and she sees all of these pictures, and she's like, when she meets these guys, it's like, that's not the picture that you had on your avatar. Does not match who you are. So talk about it for a second, because I think that is so key. Your URL must match your IRL. Spend some time chatting about that. I love it.
The number one thing that you have to think of if you want to persuade and influence anyone, and again, I say persuade and influence. If you want to say sales, if you want to say get investment, take that however you will. But the number one tool you have at your disposal is authenticity. And if you can't get clear on who you are and what you're about, then what you're going to be doing is like what your mom's talking about. You're going to be just creating the prettiest lie that you can think of. Yeah. And in this day and age, people see that. They know what fertilizer smells like, if you know what I'm saying. and you have to just get clear and get some clarity, and then be able to express that again, whether it's online or in person, in a way that makes people say, "Tell me more." Because if your pitch isn't a conversation, isn't a dialogue, that's your first mistake. So authenticity is the key.
Well, how do you get into the psyche of a shark and make that feel like, hey, it's the same as the normal guy that you're sitting across a table from trying to sell 3 dozen pens to, if you're in the office supply business? Because I think some people see those shows like Shark Tank, and I'm not familiar with Dragon's Den, but I definitely know Shark Tank. When you see a show like that, it's like larger than life. But how do you bring that down to like reality, so that somebody in the community and our listening audience can say, well, I can see that working for me, because I can get into the psyche of a guy that's a sales manager that just needs to buy forms from me. How does that work?
Well, you're hitting on a big part of it. You have to get into the psyche of the person that you're talking to. And it's easy to think that Mr. Wonderful or Mark Cuban doesn't have the same wiring that you and I do. But that's simply not true. What they're able to do with the 24 hours in a day that they're given, just like the 24 hours that you and I are given, is quite different and quite unique. But here's the thing. If you want to reach someone on a powerful level, the first place you have to look is at their puts and takes. And for entrepreneurs, the challenge that we face, and I'm speaking myself as an entrepreneur, I'm saying me too here, is that we're in the engine room. Right? We're looking at the way that we turn the crank, and we're thinking about the recipe, and we're thinking about the operations, and we're thinking about the output. But when the conversation really gets powerful is when you shift gears and you say, what is it that the investor is really interested in? What is it that purchasing agent or that CEO is really interested in? And if you don't know their puts and takes, you've got some homework to do. Because if you come in there and think that by sheer strength of will or charisma. You're going to convince someone of your viewpoint. That's a misunderstanding. The strongest conversation starts with what your listener is thinking. And while Mark Cuban and Mr. Wonderful and the other folks on Shark Tank have created some incredible results for themselves and for their companies, they still have needs that they want to meet. And when you look at that, then you can find your shark, and then you can find the investment that you're looking for.
It's interesting that you say that, because as I am oftentimes in front of somebody that I really have not, it's hard to find. You can look online and you can do some research on somebody, but oftentimes it's caught up in the conversation. You're caught up in the moment, and you're working on just having that conversation with somebody. And it's almost like you need a little bit of retreat when you're in the middle of the conversation. And some simple lines like "tell me more" oftentimes will it's just enough to give me a little bit of breathing room and space, because so often we're trying to think of what is that next thing that we're going to say, and instead of that, it should be what's that next thing we're going to be listening for from the. You're not going to learn anything if you're talking. You may as well listen to the person sitting across the table from you.
That's so true. And that's one of the things that I think is most important for entrepreneurs to realize. And we rarely talk about it, but this is some tactical advice that I think could really help. It's really helped my clients, is to think about the way that we listen. Because anytime when you watch Shark Tank, you want to know where people win money. It's in Q&A. It's in the way that they listen and respond. It's never in the pitch.
Right.
It's always in the conversation. And there are 3 ways to listen. The first way you can listen is to listen to affirm. Like someone might be listening to this and thinking, I think Tim Ferriss said something about this, or something like that. They're affirming what they already know. And when we're affirming what we already know, we're not listening to discover. And we're not listening to discover what it is that the investor, the customer, the spouse or partner is really trying to say. So if we're listening to affirm, we're missing something. And if we're listening to defend, which is the second way to listen, then we're also missing something. Listening to defend is to form a disagreement. Now, of course, there are things that people say that we disagree with, but you've seen on Shark Tank that when people disagree with the sharks and they don't do it diplomatically, what happens? They're on their way out.
Right.
So, and that's true whether you're on Shark Tank or whether you're in front of a customer or talking to your spouse or your partner. If you are listening to defend, you are not listening to discover. And that's the third way, is to listen to discover. And why that's so important is because in the area of discovery is where innovation and new results live. Because if new results happen from what you already knew, then of course you would listen to affirm and you just say, well, I already knew that, and money would start flowing. That's not the way it works.
Right. It never works that way, unfortunately. I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos, your YouTube channel, really cool. And I love you have a lot of rules of engagement. You have some really cool like pitch hacks that I don't want to call it a hack, because I think that's not giving you the reward that you should get for creating a lot of the pitch, I don't even know the words for it, but you talk about these unexpected stories and lessons that you learned. Can you share what an unexpected story is and how that will help you as you're pitching or selling someone?
Sure, absolutely. There's an unexpected story that's inside of all of us, and that unexpected story comes when you understand something that I call the high concept. And this high concept is something that is universally true. It's true for all of us, whether we are in Abilene or Australia or Anaheim. It's something that is true for everyone. And when we speak about these universal truths, a few things happen. We create that connection and engagement. We create that understanding. And it's the first and fundamental way to build trust. If you want investors to say yes, offer them something that anyone can say yes to. And let me give you a practical
That's like getting up as a rock star and saying, God bless the USA if you're in the United States. Like, that is a universal truth, and everybody that's out there is going to just completely just go crazy when you say, or you sing a Lee Greenwald song and everybody's going to love you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And all of a sudden it's July 4th everywhere. Absolutely right. And it's when you come out with those things that everyone connects with. And that's what we lose sight of. Why? Because we're in the engine room. We're sitting there watching the stove and turning the crank as entrepreneurs. But what happens when you pull up to 50,000 feet and you say things like, doesn't it seem like we all want a sense of family and belonging?
And all God's children go, oh, yeah.
Right.
And it's things like that provide an entree and get you out of the details. They say the devil's in the details, and I'll tell you why, because they will lead you to hell in a pitch. You want to go up high and connect at the highest possible level to be of the greatest level of service, if that makes sense. So for the folks listening, some tactical advice and something that you can try right now is to think about what is the high concept behind your business, behind your idea, behind the service that you can provide, something that anyone would say yes to. And then you can drill down from there into anyone in your market and see if you can speak in universals. And when you have those universal truths at your disposal, you're instantly creating an air of authenticity that's not artificial. It's real, it's connected, and that's the first rule of engagement.
I keep hearing through just just being out there in the world that people love when something is predictable, and yet a lot of what I hear and what I see in the stuff that you've put together, you talk about the advantages of being unpredictable. People like to be led down a path that they're comfortable with, and unpredictable is sometimes uneasy and takes people out of their comfort zone. But share what you mean by talking about the advantages of being unpredictable, because it was counterintuitive to me, but I can see in watching your YouTube videos that a lot of it makes sense, but make it real world for us.
When someone comes to me and says, Chris, I've got an idea for a business and nobody's ever heard of it before, I say, stop the truck, Gunga Din, hold on. Hold on.
I think you just aged yourself a little bit, Gunga Din. Okay.
Well, he's a better man than I. But it's like saying, you've never heard of this before. And when the ideas are so outrageous that people have no frame of reference, it's very difficult to go into the unknown by starting there. So here's what I've discovered, and here's something that listeners can think about when it comes to your business and your pitch. We have to begin with what is known and what is familiar if we're going to take people into that undiscovered country of a new idea, a pre-revenue startup, whatever the case may be. And I would encourage you to think about what it is that your customer, your investor, the people you wish to influence already know. That could be a starting place. And it ties back into the high concept, this idea of what is it that people already know, and how can that knowledge add to your credibility as well as be an entree into the unknown, because it's counterintuitive. We think, we've got to talk about the bright, shiny new object. No, you probably should talk about the objects that we already know, and then point out the bright, shiny new object, so that you're doing it from a context of authenticity and trust. Because when it comes to your pitch, context trumps content.
And you talk about pitch for a second, because I think that is an area that you definitely excel. It looks like you've been recognized on your website, at least it says. You've been recognized as an elevator pitch champion, like a U.S. champion. I didn't even know there was a competition for pitch championships.
That's correct. Our buddy Jeffrey Hazlett, our friend Jeffrey Hazlett, he put it together and he launched a national contest in the United States to see who had the best 2-minute pitch. And I had to record a video and gain votes on social media. And here's the thing. In the contest, I came in second place in the voting. And I thought,
it's only because Jeffrey voted for himself and he probably won.
There it is. I thought for sure, if I'm up against him, I'll never win. But Jeff called me and he said, listen, I put together a team of experts and we watched all of the videos, second place in the voting, but first place with us. You're the national champion. And that was what helped me to launch the books that I started. And now I've published 7 books, and I've, been able to create some real value because of that recognition. But the important thing to understand is that people think, do I have to be a pitch man? Do I have to become someone other than who I am in order to pitch effectively? And the answer is no, you don't. The key to the nearly $50 million that I've helped raise for dozens of businesses and hundreds of entrepreneurs has been helping people to identify with that authentic story and being able to bring it to life, not by becoming someone else, but becoming more of who you already are.
I love that you have a course actually on Udemy called How to Pitch Anything in 2 Minutes. I see it's actually you and Jeffrey had put that together. I guess after the competition was over, you decided, hey, this was a good idea. We should probably see if we can make a couple of dollars off of it. So share, give me some of the insight. Can you share it without tipping the handle? And we'll put a link in the show notes how our Nice Guy community can get a hold of the course. But can you share something that's in the course that would be a good practical thing for them to put into use soon?
The biggest takeaway from the course is that it helps you to shift the conversation and to shift your focus onto what really matters, because as an entrepreneur, where you put your attention is where you find your results. And what the course really centers on is where you can what you pay attention to is what creates what it is that you're looking for. In other words, the outcomes that you want. And so what Jeffrey and I really focus on, and we pull from his books and from some of the things that he's talked about, even in books like Running the Gauntlet and some of the other things that he's created, but to set the stage for a new kind of conversation. And you have to focus on what people have not heard before. You have to get there very quickly, using what's known to get to what's new. And when you focus on what's new and what people haven't heard, what's counterintuitive, what's surprising or unexpected about your story, that's what makes people lean in. That's what Sheryl Sandberg calls the lean in factor. It makes people lean in and say, tell me more. And that's what the course will show you how to do.
Yeah, that's great, and that really is at the key of every successful pitch. I think that you're not going to sell something through your pitch. You're going to sell it through opening a conversation, and the tell me more is an avenue that you definitely want to be able to head down. Let's get into some practical stuff for just a moment. Some tools, tips, and technology. Tell me about something that you use in the course of your day that you just could not be without as an entrepreneur. Something that you need, whether it's technology or just a practical piece of equipment. What is it that you use?
There's two things that I use. My website is super important to me, like all entrepreneurs that are in the space that I'm in. And I use a tool called Visita, which is scheduling software, and it's right there on my website. If you visit my website at westfallonline.com, you'll see it lurking in the lower right-hand corner. It's just a contact button, and it's an opportunity for folks to see my calendar and to schedule a 30-minute consultation and conversation. And I say yes as often as I possibly can, because my business is about helping people to tell their stories more effectively. So I start off by saying, tell me your story. Yep. And the second piece that I use is a simple Google form. It's simply Google Forms to allow people to tell me a little bit about what it is that they're looking for and what it is that looks like an impossible problem. Because in my business, I'm only interested in working with the toughest customers. When you want to go on Shark Tank, you are up against over 40,000 applicants, and you're fighting for about 106 slots on the television show. So when those odds are stacked against you like that, you need someone in your corner who knows how to change the conversation and how to help you have that 6 or 7 or even 8-figure dialogue that you need. So starting that dialogue with Visita and simple Google Forms is, for me, a great tool to help people to connect, and so that I can engage with their story.
So, Chris, maybe my tell me more is this: what haven't we covered today that we should talk about when it comes to making a good pitch or getting your message heard?
Great question. Well, there are a couple things that I have some resources, and you've touched on them. My YouTube channel is out there at youtube.com/Westfall Online. And that's my last name, like the direction in the season, Westfall Online. Mm-hmm. And there are over 200 videos on effective communication strategies, leadership techniques, ways to be more persuasive and more compelling. And I think that could be a resource that could be of great value to the listeners. And it provides you with some exercises and some tactics that you can try, whether you struggle with using words like and in your presentations, or whatever the case may be. There's a number of resources there that can help you to be more connected to your story, so that other people can connect with you.
And what would be the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to do that? Just on your website, or should they go to your YouTube channel or Twitter? What's your favorite point of connection?
Well, Twitter is great. Twitter is also at Westfall Online. You can also find me on LinkedIn, same at Westfall Online there. So it really depends on what your favorite flavor is. You can also find me on Facebook or whatever the case may be. But the key thing is, no matter what path you choose, if you're committed to telling your story and you've got a high stakes conversation where victory matters to you, maybe we should talk. So that's a way to do it. And of course, the website again, westfallonline.com. And the new one that's just been launched, chriswestfall.net.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of your YouTube videos. You have a lot in common with some of the big champions that are out there in sales. So, Chris, thank you so much for being a part of the show and a part of our community as well.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on Nice Guys.
Sure, our pleasure as well. Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Chris Westfall for being on the show. We'll make sure we put all of his information in the show notes, including his website, his YouTube channel, links to his Udemy course, his books. He's got a lot. It may be an extended show note listing, so we'll make sure we put all of those links in the show notes. Again, thanks again for being here, Chris, and we'll talk to you soon.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. 5 episodes a week. Isn't that like some kind of a war crime? Why don't you just waterboard these poor people?